The Hustleshare podcast is sponsored by OneCFO, the Philippines' leading fractional CFO services provider for startups, scale-ups, and SMEs. Experience the power of tech-enabled, efficient, affordable, and expert-led fractional CFO services. Let OneCFO handle your finances so you can focus on growing your business. Book your free CFO consultation today.
Entrepreneurship is the biggest personal development program that you can get yourself into. It's like personal development on steroids because you just have to eliminate things that are not working for you. And so the person that I was a year ago, I can say, is different. Even my choices, my lifestyle.
Welcome to Hustleshare, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Baetyong.
Welcome to this episode of the Share Podcast. We are super excited because we're coming all the way internationally. There you go. Guten Morgen or Guten Tag. There you go. That's the only shit I know in German. Aside from Danke and Prost. That's it. The most important word. Again, so we have international Filipina killing it, who is my batchmate in the recent BAJ Accelerator. We survived that, having being half awake the whole time. And again, she wouldn't be making to that program if it wasn't legit, because Paul Pajo, the page man, does not put you in situations if you're not legit. So again,
The main connector.
yes, there you go. And again, I want to give credit where credit's due, because this is a startup you should be knowing about. So let's welcome to the show the founder and CEO of GetYourVisa, Miss Carlyn Gabon.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Ron.
All right. Super duper excited. And when I first heard about your startup, I'm like, shit, this is a big problem.
Yes.
It is a very, very big problem. And I've had this experience. One lucky, one unlucky. And I'll talk about that later. But before I get carried away, I need to ask you the $1 million question. Carlyn, what's your hustle?
Hi, Ron. Hi, everyone. I'm Carlyn. I help people get their visas. Quite very simply, I want to help people go after their dreams, opportunities abroad. And I do that by simplifying the process through a platform.
Mhm.
And so the goal is to unlock the world for everyone, regardless of where you were born.
Regardless of your passport, if it's
Exactly.
shitty or not.
Regardless of our passport. Yeah. So we do that with the tech that we have right now,
Mhm.
the automations, whatever we can leverage on AI.
That's amazing. And again, I became quite a fan. I was like, what is when I first saw her on the BAJ Accelerator, like, whoa, I've never heard. I pretty much know a bunch of the founders. So some founders come and go, but there's always that someone that picks my interest. Like, whoa, okay, she's legit. And I looked it up, and I'm like, whoa, she has been around, and she's not just been around for a while. Not because you're a tita or a tito like me, it's because you've been in the tech industry. But before we talk about all of that, I will pick you up in the Sakayan, in whatever. Wait, which city are you in? Are you in Berlin itself?
I'm in Berlin. Yes.
Wow, tough town.
So hub.
Okay, there you go. I'll pick you up in the Sakayan in the Autobahn real quick.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
I'll be there. Okay, because I'm gonna have to go all the way back and understand your origin story, because we're gonna have to ride the Hustleshare time machine. All right, so Carlyn, I wanna very very curious about your origin story, but before we start and talk about your tech career, I want to understand your origin story of how you started out hustling. Can you remember, or what do you remember of your first influences of hustling, and what was it like growing up?
Right. So I grew up in the Philippines, so I'm not made in Germany.
You're not German? I can't
No,
believe.
no,
Okay.
no, I didn't grow up here. So I just moved here in 2020. But before that, most importantly, I think I would, because this can go in so many different directions.
Okay.
I grew up in a very loving, supportive family.
Yeah.
So, and I'm the eldest daughter, so I think that
Ate
alone
Carlyn pala.
hustle.
Mm.
Yes. So I remember, even if, we were provided everything,
Mm.
whenever we want something else or
Yep.
something more, we always have to work hard for it.
Mm.
And so ever since I was a kid, I've always had this I've always wanted to explore.
Mm.
So I see Ireland on TV or I hear about different places. I would always say to myself, someday I'll go there, even if I don't know where it is in the map.
Nice.
So I also remember as a child, we would go on sell on Sundays, like barbecues when we go on
Oh
when we go
man.
on overnights or sleepovers with my cousins. And it just so happened that my tita's house is located right across the church. So on Sundays, they would prepare everything and then we would be there and
You're the
sell.
tindera.
And all the revenue
Oh.
we would we would keep it to buy stuff in Sanrio.
Nice. Whoever funded that is lugi all the time.
Yes,
Because
yes. So
the tindera got all the revenue.
the
Mhm.
first funding from the titas. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. And again, it's so important. And I double this down because I've talked to so many founders where when your core is solid and the core starts with family,
Yeah.
right? Now there's always the saying now, some founders thrive in organized chaos and whatnot, or whether broken family and whatnot. That might be true because it gives you a chip on your shoulder. But
Yeah.
I've also seen the effect of founders having a solid foundation at home where you're led to believe, and early on it's hard to be you're led to believe that you can take on the world because at the end of the day life's going to be solid at home. I had to figure that out on my own. I mean, my mom tried to provide me with everything. I'm a only child, single mom. That's a setup, very loving, but there are things I couldn't figure out and I had to discover on my own. Took a while, but I got there. But man, I have so much respect for solid families because now you can just worry about what you want to get as well. So with that setup, I'm not, again, doesn't matter the origin story. What matters is the end game. So off of that foundation, what were the first few hustles that you remember, and how was that? How were you in school?
Yes. So in school, I actually used it as the means to get things that I want. So early on
Mm,
in life. So for example, I mentioned that I wanted like a lot of things,
okay.
like even small things like Barbie or I want to go to a concert.
Okay.
It's not just gonna be given to me. I have to work for it.
Okay.
And so I used that by having good grades in school. And then I would show up my
Ah.
grandparents. And so you can already see maybe the trend here moving forward.
Okay.
Um I whenever I want to achieve something, then I have to work for it and then I will get it. So that was like, the trend.
Go get
And
it. Mhm.
even when as even in little things as okay, my mom's gonna go to the mall,
Mm.
I have to finish X number of pages in a book. And sometimes because early on I didn't want to be told what to do, as kids we don't want
There
that.
you go.
So I would
Yes.
pretend that I'm not really reading or I'm not really studying the book. I would
Okay.
watch the TV. But then when my mom says that, okay, I'll just go to the shower, I'll prepare. If you're not ready, and I will ask you 10 questions. If you're not ready and if you don't get it all right, then you will not go to the mall with me.
Okay.
And so when she's away, I would study, I would cram, I would procrastinate, and I would
What?
get everything right. Yes.
That's
So
that's rare because majority of the time when the parents is out, like I'm not gonna study. Do that. Captain Planet is on. I will go planet. There you go.
I wanted to go to the mall, right?
Okay.
So yeah, and then
Wow.
even when I was in college, right,
Yeah.
my parents wanted me to pursue another course. So they wanted me to be, a doctor, something in the medicine field. And
Okay.
of course, I didn't want that. I wanted to go this route. I wanted to go to Europe, international studies, Ateneo. So I even
Ah.
had to convince them. And even with the small, well, not the small, but then with the study abroad program, for
Yeah.
example. the to study language courses. I
Yeah.
would also had to convince them. I think I wrote a 5-pager. Uh,
Without
let
Chat GPT, huh?
No, without ChatGPT, I wrote
Mm-hmm.
it from the heart. So
Mm-hmm.
I told them, of course, the reason, the purpose, the motivation, and then what I'm willing to give up to
Wow.
have it. Yeah.
Wow.
So
No,
those are
I love the conviction, and I want to do a deep dive on that because obviously your career will is basically the epitome of that desire to really go out.
yeah.
Where did that come from? The clarity of where
Mm.
you want to go and the means of what you were willing to do to actually achieve what you want.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think it also comes from, I mentioned before that I grew up in a healthy family, and
Yeah,
then I had that ingrained in me that when I want something, then I can just go for it. And so I thought in very unlimited manner.
love it.
As
Mhm,
a child, I
mhm,
believed in fairy tales, even when, I mean, even when I grew up, I thought
mhm,
that, no, if I just really put my mind into it. And of course, I read also a lot of personal development books, even when I was younger.
mhm.
Yeah. But that desire to go out is maybe it stems from the exigent need also to explore. I
Mm.
have this need for variety, for exploration, for something new.
So you're technically Dora the Explorer before Dora was sikat.
Maybe,
There you go.
maybe
And you just needed a Diego and watch out for swiper or
backpack.
swiping. There you go.
Exactly.
Okay, I love it. So right after that, so now you're very, very crystal clear because here's what I love about your story. Most people in their career will go out of college, would even go to the workforce, not even knowing what they want. And that's
Hmm.
why the where they end up is so vague. It's like, bahala na, kahit ano, whatever. And they end up somewhere they don't like because at the start they were not very, very particular over what that is. And I feel like in hindsight, those people that I meet that ended up where they really wanted to be, regardless of how hard the path is. Because
Yeah.
at the start, they first believe in where they wanted to go and they were willing to go where they wanted to get. They eventually made it to where they
Yeah.
wanted to go, regardless
Yeah.
of how long it took or how hard it was. But for those people who struggle getting there, are those people who weren't really vivid over what it is. And this is cliche because during our time, if we're around the same age, the law of attraction was such a thing. The secret, whatnot. I'm like, oh fuck. But in hindsight, being 2020, all these things that I also wanted as an entrepreneur, technically it's just a checklist. Eh? Every single
Mm.
thing that I wanted, I'm still working on some stuff. But I'd say 2/3 ticked off na. But my God, the story of how I got there.
That's
So much, so
yeah.
much win. So I
Yeah.
want to understand. So after this, you leverage the Araneo to take it on. What was the first step to chase that dream? Because I want to I want to ask you for as a side question first. Did the vision of going around the world, traveling and hustling towards the world, did that become more vivid? You added more to that, or was that just like really gung ho? This is where we're going. Bahala na si Batman will figure it out.
So I had the vision for myself
Okay.
of where I want to end up in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's vivid in a way that, yes, I have that vision in mind, but then the steps to get there was something
Yep.
like, well, I don't even know how to
Yep.
do that.
You don't know either. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I had to figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when we were young, there's this part also that pulls us back to comfort. Like, okay,
Yep.
this is what everyone does, go to corporate. And so
Mm-hmm.
early on, I think that's how I started.
Okay.
I went to corporate.
What was the first
I
job?
I moved to Santa Rosa, Laguna for SunPower. Yes, it's
Wait, which city were you born in? Ba?
Quezon City, Manila.
QC, what's that? Oh,
See,
okay. I'm a
see.
QC boy too. I was born and raised in Kamuning, the hoods of
Oh,
Kamuning. There you go.
okay. Yes, that's near Cubao, right? So,
Yes. The
yes.
Sacred Heart Scout area. Yeah. But I'm not in the posh area. I'm in the outskirts. I'm one of them hood boys. Okay. So, all
Yeah,
right. So QC and the South are totally different
we're different. Yes.
neighborhoods. So I know because I grew up in QC and I live in the South. The girl that I married is from Cavite. And my God, it's a totally different vibe. Okay, so what was that like working in Laguna, and where did you work?
I moved to Santa Rosa. I rented the place there. And this was fresh out of college.
Wow.
It was my first job. And it felt to me like, wow, this is such an adult thing to do, to move out of the house after college. But of course, I was guided along the way by my parents. They went with me to look for a place. And then I applied for a German speaker role because,
German speaker role. What is
yes,
that even?
so I was doing sales and operations for SunPower, which is a solar energy company, solar panels.
Wow.
And we were taking care of the Germany region, the European region. So I was working
Wow.
European hours there. But the thing is, I applied. I mentioned that I can speak German because I took some semesters of German back in
Wow.
college. And then when I got there, my first day, everyone was fluent. Like they were native speakers of the language. So on
Okay.
the side, there were native French speakers, Spanish, German,
Mhm.
and then I was the only like basic German.
Okay.
But then I don't know, somehow I made it through the interview process.
Right.
Um, and then yeah, after that I moved to another company. I went back na to Makati.
Okay.
I joined General Electric.
GE.
That's the
Wow.
healthcare
Okay.
department. And the goal then was to join a Fortune top 100 company.
Makes
And
sense.
because this was the definition of, no, I have to climb the corporate ladder.
Okay.
That's how I started it. I didn't last long. I'm still very good friends with my former managers there. And
Mm.
recently, well, not so recent, but a couple of years back, I
Mm.
saw the country manager somewhere in Austria, in Salzburg. And
Yeah.
then he was
Wow.
traveling with his family, and I was traveling with my parents at the time. And
Okay.
then one of the first memories that he had of me was, even during the interview process, you already told me that you're gonna go to Europe someday. And
Wow.
now you're here. Yeah, so
Wow.
I didn't know it at the time that even during the interview, and
Mm.
during the interview, right, you're supposed to say that, no, I'm gonna stay here for a couple of years. I'll be
Right.
reliable. I'll stay.
Mm.
But even then, pala, I was vocal about it na.
Yeah. It's the law of attraction. Again, that's why I'm
Not
super.
action.
This is super duper inspiring because for those of you guys who it works in the startup ecosystem too, especially if you create your startup because it's a leap of faith and it has to be irrational. You just really want to be clear about the end game, how you want your startup to impact the world. What's the end game for you? Because there are going to be days it's going to be hella dark, and if you really just are hell bent towards, hey, I'm going to end up here, somehow some way you'll get there.
Yeah.
I love it. But I want to understand two things before we talk about your tech startup thing, because this is where you spent the longest time too. So I want to understand the skill stack. So you obviously multilingual. You knew how to speak German in Santa Rosa. You became independent, and now you're in G. What are the top skills that you mentioned that you think you've acquired during those two stints that you still use now?
Okay. So I want to clarify that when I joined as a German speaker, I wasn't fluent,
Okay.
but I just had to figure out a way to survive, to
Okay.
make it. And
Mm.
that's also, I think, one of the lessons that when I say that I'm good at something, I better be good at
Mm.
it. Otherwise, I figure out a way to learn fast.
Okay.
So that's a skill. And also, I think knowing if I want to pursue a certain route or not.
Okay.
And if had I just pursued a corporate route and stayed with the multinationals, I it's probably more comfortable in the sense that I know that there's clear progression. I know that
Okay.
after a couple of years, I'd end up there,
Mm.
I'd get this. But again, it's staying true to myself. Does
Mm.
that make me happy?
Love it.
Right. So I think those two. And if when I reach a point wherein, okay, this is not for me, then I find a way. So that's why after that, I moved out.
Mhm.
I studied in the UK for my
Mm.
master's. Yes, and that was when I got exposed to the startup ecosystem.
How? What was the exposure and what led you to this? Because I think you never left na after that. You're technically in somewhere in the startup world after that. How did you get exposed, and what led to that initial exposure?
So when we had to choose our topic for the thesis, for the master's thesis, right?
Okay.
And my professor was telling us to talk about brand marketing. And I wanted to talk about Tesla. I wanted to write about how the electric vehicle industry will take over the world. And at the time, it was still very nascent.
Yep.
But I also was so interested in the likes of Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Tony Fadell. So I wrote my paper on Tesla. I had to go to London and then book a schedule so that I can test drive the Tesla Model S. And
Wow.
because I was looking for jobs then as a
Okay.
student, right? I landed this opportunity to go to apply for Spotify, and later this is where the visa issues come in and the
Okay.
issues.
Yan na.
Yeah, it has.
Okay.
And I also volunteered for the Web Summit.
In
But
Portugal?
at the time, they were doing it in Dublin, in Ireland.
Oh, because now every time it's in Lisbon.
Yes, the year after they moved it to Lisbon because
Got
I
it.
think some issues in Ireland.
Mm.
And then that was when I got exposed to people who were so driven to create things, to build things. And I remember I took a photo of this banner outside the conference
Okay.
hall. It says, "We back Brave."
Love it.
And for me, I'm brave.
Yan na.
Someday.
Mm.
I wasn't ready at the time, but
Yep.
I think I planted that seed also in my mind.
Love it. Okay. So and when you that's what it takes. All it takes is that initial inception where you get planted that seed, and coupled with your bravado wherever you're getting it from, that you're gonna get there by hook or by crook. Where did that lead to? Because obviously I'm looking at your LinkedIn and you work with a good friend of mine, Mr. Brian. Cool. There you go.
Brian.
Brian. Okay. During the Grab Uber wars. There you go.
That's
And
right.
how did you get the Grab job, and what was Grab like when you came in?
Right. So I joined in mid-June 2015.
Okay. So around 2 to 3 years in operations now.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yes. But at the time when I got back, I didn't know about Grab at all. I just remembered that when I was in the tech summit, I tried to book a taxi. So I think that was Uber at the time,
Mm.
but or it could be something else.
Yep.
And then it seemed it was very new. And so I applied. And at the same time, I got an offer from Zalora, which is the other company.
Ah, another company that Brian also co-founded.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
And Grab seemed to be the more, but okay, I was more interested in what Grab was doing.
Mm.
And so my first role was operations and strategy and operations early
Yeah.
on. And at the time, we had to even teach drivers how to use the app.
Yes.
It was that early on, we were onboarding a lot of taxi drivers.
Yep.
I was interviewed in a 7-Eleven by HR because the office was full. Yeah, and then the
Wow.
second interview naman, it was in a better
Was
restaurant.
there a free hot dog or a free big gulp man lang? No?
It was the first interview with HR, and
Okay.
then yeah, I thought, wow, this is a fun company. It's not very structured.
Yep.
It's something that I can see probably my work. I would see it come into fruition. So that
Yep.
was very interesting for me. At the time, Brian just got back to Grab, and working with him, it opened up my mind into how things should be done.
Yep.
And
Were you
how
a direct one down? Did you have direct access to him?
not initially.
Okay.
Yeah. So after that, I reported to him, but also dotted line to regional.
Oh, to Anthony.
No, not to Anthony. Wow.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
To a regional manager
Got it.
who was taking care of the new initiatives.
Got it. I want to understand this because we'll do a deep dive in your Grab thing. But before we take our first pick, I want to understand this. So if you had access to Brian, okay, in my Mount Rushmore of founders in the Philippines, Brian is there. I have nothing but respect for Brian. But I've also had an opportunity. I don't know if you were still there. 2019. Oh yeah, Baka, you're still there. I had an opportunity to interview Brian when he was still in Grab in 2019 in the Grab office in Pasong Tamo.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And forgot the bearded guy, PR bearded guy's name. And I remember so many profound things. But he said, and this is where sorry, I'm going a tangent here real quick. But I remember going to him during the pandemic because he mentioned during the episode that he had a temper. I had a temper too.
Yeah.
And my temper cost me so much at one point during the pandemic because I didn't know how to lead remotely. Obviously, I've learned, hindsight being 2020, cost me a lot. Learned how to do that, lost a couple of good people. That's on me. But again, I became a better leader. And the person that I went to was Brian. And he's always generous with his advice. Might not be instant. And I've seen him. He said that he had to snap out of that mean streak or that temper that he had to become a better leader. I now understand that because I now know how to become disappointed or angry without going into outbursts.
Yeah.
What was your Brian Koo experience and what are the things you learned from him?
Very positive, honestly. So the last time that I was in the Philippines, I even met up with him.
Nice.
Get advice.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever, even when I was in Grab, I saw him as that leader, and I would always say that he's my favorite boss. And that's not a very light thing to say.
Yep.
Right? He's someone that I admire, also because of how he was with the team.
Yeah.
He had clarity of where he wanted to go and how he wanted to lead the team. And for me, he, even if I wanted to work on like new initiatives, he was always very encouraging. So of course I had to prove that this is going to be a sound project, right? But he gave us the room to experiment, to explore, which is very important. And then he would back us up. So I remember there was this one time that I was running this project and we received a complaint. And then he called me and said, "Why is this person directly contacting me for this particular thing?" And I was like, and then of course I had to explain. And then he said that if it's our fault, then we have to fix it.
Yeah.
But when he said that, I felt that wow, he used our fault and we fix it. It's not like it's your fault, you fix it. So I think that gave me that sense of, okay, it's safe. It's safe to make mistakes as long as it's not a major thing, as long as it's fixable. And again, that trust. And so because of that, I wanted to do better.
Love it.
Yeah. So I think that was the trend in the leadership in Grab. That's why I love my time there, is they give you that free rein to do things, experiment, but also because they trust you and they give you what you need, it also motivated me to do better and to really do my work well.
I love it. And that's also the time when technically Grab kicked Uber's ass to the point that they had to just merge, and do an M&A. Because again, if you guys didn't do a good job, these things wouldn't even happen. And that just says a lot about how Brian led that team. And you're experiencing hyper growth at this time. And it's important if you're gonna be a founder. I always say this. Hindsight being 2020. So if you want to be a founder and you're not sure about how to become a founder yet, the best path to become a founder is to join a hyper growth startup. That's winning. Because that's how you will know what it takes to win, to execute fast, to fail fast, and everything else in between.
Yeah, and also I saw there that when he has an idea, we would just act on it.
Yep.
And we will just see that, wow, it works. So that was also a learning experience for me, that when you just think of something, don't dwell too much on thinking about it, overthinking. Just act on it and then see if it works or not.
Yep.
Otherwise, you change route.
Yep.
Diba? Yeah.
Now, if you guys are if you still have time, we'll link you the Brian Q episode, and then he even has an anecdote over Supa. Supa is a Sarisuki app that they built, and I don't know if this is after Grab na. What he did was like, all right, I'm willing to bet you. I forgot what the amount of bet, but he literally went out the streets and talked to people to make people download an app. This is after Grab. This is a Brian Q doing that. If
Yeah.
he's willing to do that and he's in the Mount Rushmore of startup founders in the Philippines, I don't know what you're doing, but this guy is a complete hustler. There you go.
Yes.
Now let's take our first break, and when we come back, we will talk about obviously the continuation of the Grab hustle, because she became the regional manager of Grab and Grab for business here. So this wasn't a quick stint; she grew here, and obviously the next few stints that she did right before she created Get Your Visa. Let's talk about that more after a break.
Hey hustlers, ever feel like your money's flowing in, but your profits are nowhere to be seen? Is managing your cash a constant source of stress, leaving you anxious about day-to-day operations? Or maybe you're holding back on growth because you're unsure if your finances are really stable. The real problem? You don't have a clear picture of your finances. Without a strategic financial partner, you're basically operating in the dark, always one step away from hidden pitfalls. But what if you had a seasoned fractional CFO who understands these challenges and gives you clear and straightforward steps to increase profits and grow steadily without the cost of a full-time CFO? That's what OneCFO delivers. OneCFO combines the strategic thinking of experienced CFOs with their own cutting-edge CFO tech platform, giving you transparent, real-time insights that empower you to make smart moves. They're the go-to fractional CFO partner for growing companies like Quick Insure, Avion School, J Labs, Advance, OneLot, Colorette, and Stash, helping them conquer financial challenges and achieve remarkable growth. Imagine having a crystal clear view of your financial performance and the confidence to execute bold, growth-driving strategies. Ready to level up? Click the link in the description or go to onecfoph.co. That's onecfoph.co right now to book your free no-obligation consultation. Gain clarity in your finances and grow your business with confidence. Click the link or visit onecfoph.co today.
And we're back from the break. We're still with Carlyn Gabon, who then told us the amazing journey, but he's still in Grab at this point. And again, what happened here? I'm gonna give context to the people. So again, you started out strategy and special projects 2015 to 2017. Then you moved on to strategy and new transport business manager 2017 to 2018, all the way to regional manager to 2018 2019 Grab for business. Region meaning not just the Philippines. So that's a Grab is a behemoth across Southeast Asia. That's the only transport app you need for you to be able to go to point A to point B and even get your food. Oh, diba? I do not go out anymore. I'm willing to pay the extra patong just to get my food. All right. But walk me through that process and how many times did you evolve within Grab to get to that final role as regional manager for Grab for business?
Yes. So at the time, there were a lot of opportunities in the sense that there were a lot of problems.
Yep.
So if you find a solution or a potential solution to solve a problem, then it becomes your project. And so that was the time when I started with the new transport initiatives. We had low supply and we had high demand. So this was the time when they were very strict about the number of supply
Yep.
and the registrations. And
Yeah.
so, yes,
NBS stop. My God.
yes, stuff. So we had to figure out a way to maximize the existing supply that we have. And so I thought of, hey, how about we do shuttle, bus, and mass transport? How about we experiment there? So that became my project. It eventually evolved into Grab Bus, And then like Grab Shuttle, they had it already in Singapore, but there were again regulations.
Yep.
So after a while, we had to stop. And then I had this opportunity to join the regional team in Singapore. So I moved there to manage also Grab for Business in the 8 countries that we were operating in. So that was a
Mm.
great experience because we had, even on my first month, we had to fly to Indonesia, to Malaysia, to different countries where we were operating in. And it just, again, opened my mind into the possibilities and
Got it.
also the responsibility to bring it to market.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And this is where a lot of the successful founders in the Philippines, whether Pinoy, AFAM, PhilAm, doesn't matter. Their perspective change when they have seen winning or in a tech setup overseas, regionally, it doesn't really matter. And then they say, oh shit, this is what's possible. And there's nothing like that here in the Philippines, but not just what's possible, they also understand how to operate that and understand the nuances. How did that change your perspective? Now you're already part of the whole conglomerate or this whole tech mammoth, but you still see all these opportunities and the little nuances in Southeast Asia that in Indo that works, in Malaysia might not work, or whatever. Well, how did that change your perspective, and how did you adapt to that type of setup where it's not a one size fits all?
No, definitely not. And so early on in my experience in Grab, there was already a strong sense of ownership. Also because I think especially the early hires, we thought that way.
Yeah.
That it's not just another company that we can be very chill about and then not do our best, right? We all wanted to make it work. And when I saw, the different perspectives, it was ingrained in us that we have to think globally but act hyper locally. So that was the game.
Love it.
Because sometimes in every city, even in the same country, different cities, we have a different approach.
Got it.
So again, as you mentioned, it's not a one size fits all. We had to figure out a way to get into the market and to really drill down what is the pain point that we're solving here. Is it relevant for this particular country or not?
Okay.
And then shift the strategy depending on the insights that we have.
I love it. Okay. Now again, you're there till 2019, and then somewhere in between November 2019 to January 2020, this is where you went to finally go to Europe. So walk me through. A lot of people are become lifers in Grab, or at least spend a good chunk of their life staying in Grab because it's such a dynamic environment, right?
Yes.
And there's nothing that's just basically the same. It evolves fast enough. But did you feel an itch to finally achieve your European dream at one point, and how did that happen?
Yes. And even before I moved to Singapore, I had an option already to move to Hamburg for another startup. Yes. But then Grab had
Other
that
plans.
that offer. And so I was like, yeah, this is an offer that I can't just let go of. So I took that role in Singapore. And then the following year, I had this opportunity again to move to Munich. And this time with another transport company, Flixbus. And so I really felt that at the time that I wanted to do it. So I left in November. I went back to Manila, got my stuff, and then moved to Munich with my parents. My family came with me to Munich to explore. Also spent Christmas there, and then when I started
White
working,
Christmas yun, for sure.
yeah, so it was a really amazing time.
Sinterklaas. Sinterklaas is pala Dutch. Sorry. There you go.
Yeah, so and then after that, I started January, February, it was already the pandemic.
Holy shit.
Yes.
So what
And
happened? How was the pandemic during in Munich, and how did you get by?
it was very challenging, to say the least.
Yeah.
I moved there. I thought that, oh, every month or every week, I would go to a different city, I would go to a different country, I would live the life.
Yep.
Then the pandemic happened, and I just so happened that the role that I had in Flixbus was international expansion.
Oh my God.
I was doing country launches and I loved it. That was what I wanted.
Yep.
But the pandemic happened. Our market was travel, tourism.
Right.
So even when I really enjoyed the role and I had good feedback also from my managers, after
Yeah.
a while, we had to, okay, stop going to the office. And then eventually, I lost my job.
Oh my God.
Yes. And wow,
And
this is the first time that I'm saying this out
wow.
in the wild because that was a tough period for
No,
me.
and that's just absolutely terrifying and scary because you thought this was it, nay. This is
I
like,
know.
oh shit, this is what I've always wanted. And then the
Yeah,
pandemic happened. You're one of those unfortunate ones who weren't who didn't get the job. So how did you get by? And obviously you can't go home, right?
exactly. Exactly.
What happened?
So that was a very tough time because I also didn't tell my parents.
Oh no.
Because I was already worried about them. You know,
Mm.
we had this global pandemic, nobody knew what was gonna happen.
Yep.
And at that time, all I wanted was to make sure that they were okay and that they don't have to worry about me.
Yeah.
So there was even this time wherein I most of the jobs, even up to now, but especially at that time, they wanted native German speakers or a certain level of fluency in German. And I
Okay.
don't have that. I'm basic intermediate German. And so that even minimized the opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have a lot and no one was hiring at the time, especially the travel
Yeah.
industry, right?
Mhm.
It was a crazy time and my visa was tied to my job.
Hala. This
Mhm.
is it. So this
This
is
is
where they
it.
get your what
This
was
is
the visa about Schengen? Oh, what was just to be specific, what does it take for you to work in Europe? Because all I know is the Schengen visa, which can technically take you into the EU, except Britain because they did a Brexit. Boohoo.
right.
There you go.
So the Schengen visa is for short stay, so it's for tourism and business. The visa that I had then was it's national D that I converted into an EU blue card. This EU blue
Oh,
card is for what they consider as highly skilled workers.
wow.
Yeah, so it kind of gave you certain benefits when you have that.
Love it. Okay.
At the time, because as I mentioned, my visa was tied to my company, and
Yep.
then I lost that job, and the immigration offices were closed. We couldn't get any appointments, and then there were a lot of expats
Right.
who were in the same situation, right?
Yeah.
So if you remember in the BAJ accelerator,
Yeah.
I had that photo of
Yeah.
people lining up
Right.
from 5 a.m., some even earlier, 4 a.m., without any guarantee that we would get a slot. So I
During the
didn't
pandemic pa.
during
So
the
good
pandemic, that
luck.
was during the pandemic. Yeah, so I didn't do it just once. I went there at least 2 times.
It's a super spreader event waiting to happen every single time.
Exactly. And we were all, we wanted to get the right permit so that we can stay legally.
Yeah.
Because what were the other options? We couldn't fly home also.
Right.
So it's either I fly home, but again, there were no flights, or I overstay, which is also not good. So
Yeah.
we had to go there and again find a way. But that was where or when I told myself that wow, if this is already happening to me and to these people who are highly educated, who are they have the good background,
Right.
we still have to go through this. What about the rest of the people? It's already hard. And so that was when I told myself, at some point, when I'm over this, I
Mm.
just really want to make it easier for people coming after me.
There you go. Because it's really a pain point that you have. It has to be personal to you. The
Yeah,
problem you have to solve is needs to be very personal to the point that even rational decisions or rational thinking
yeah,
would not make sense because if it's that deeply entrenched to your personality and your experience, then you're going to be hell-bent. So now it makes a lot of sense. Now I understand why
mm,
you want to solve this problem, and it is a big problem. And so this is my visa cuento. I only have two visas. I've only
yeah,
had two visas ever. My first visa, I got lucky. This was in 2018. I was trying to go to the States my first time. There was a F8. We're trying to go to F8. Came from a lower middle class family. So it's a big damn deal. I'm trying to go to the US, my first time, right? It's like, yes, I'm going to the United States of the America. There you go. F8. This is after I sold my second startup, Chatbot, PH. See, that's the only time I could afford to go to the US. And I didn't even pay for it. It's the acquirer paid for it. I said I got the it's what we were able to then do was got the ticket, use that ticket, got a appointment in the US embassy. The US embassy then got my passport. I use my American twang as much as I can, which is all fake. There you go. I learned that in a call center. And on the day of the flight, like 2 hours or 3 hours before, I got the visa. Can you imagine how fucking nerve-wracking it is? I got my passport, like, yes, okay, my visa, bye.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit, I was so scared because like, what the hell? This is not a... How much is a ticket to the US? $500, $600? On a bad season, it's probably $1,000, right? So it's good thing. Again, it's so nerve-wracking. The second time I applied for a visa was a one-time visit. In 2022, I got invited on to speak at an audio conference in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I was scared shitless. I wasn't supposed to even go because they said you should just go get your visa wherever you go. And then this is how I understand. So that pain you had to go through is very, very akin to what the pain you had to go through. So the only way you can get a visa as a Pinoy to go to Riyadh is the same way every single OFW would have to go through. So there's this forgot what it was called, but there's this place that you pay to get an appointment. They set your visa, something like that, and then they apply. But they're an agent. They're just an agent. You can't go direct to the Saudi agency. And then they made us go to this building somewhere in Manila where everyone was just so many OFWs. They assume every Pinoy is an OFW because there's no such thing as a tourist OFW at that point, 2022. And mind you, in 2022, I broke my ankle. So I was on crutches.
Oh my. You were there, like,
yeah. Like, what the hell? One false move, I'm gonna... Woo! And then long story short, after going through that, I still didn't get a visa.
Oh. Wait, so you didn't get
I didn't get a visa that way. Apparently, there's this online way where I can just fill shit up, blah, blah, blah. Again, on the 23rd hour, it happened to me. Then I flew in. They flew me business class along with my wife.
Wow.
Pero
Yeah.
pal, business class pal. It's not this business class. It's not business class Emirates. I should have gotten Emirates. Basta, it was, but every single time talking about a visa, sorry, excuse my French, but it's a motherfucking bitch. Okay?
Yes.
It is not fun anywhere, especially if you have a Filipino passport, because they assume that if you're going to places where there's a lot of OFWs, and there's nothing wrong with it, by the way.
No.
That you're an OFW, and the way they treat our kababayans going to places where there's dense OFW population is shit. So nah. So if I can pay my way to not experience that, 10 times out of 10 I would.
Mm-hmm. And that is what I mean earlier about there are a lot of people who probably are having it harder, like they're having a harder time because it's not just about them going after what they want. They have to take care of their families back home.
Yep.
So the amount of pressure that they have was, I can only imagine if I already had that pressure, what more for them?
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to play a role in hopefully making it better. Also because it keeps on repeating. It's not a one-time thing that after that pandemic, that's the end. There were little signs that, okay, this is the visa problem again, or this is a passport issue again. And the more that I talk to people about it, the more that I realize that, wow, this will keep on happening
Right.
if something doesn't change.
That's
And
amazing.
I know that it's a big problem that I I have an idea of how it can be done and how it can be solved, but then because it has been so ingrained, it has been a long time that visa will always be there.
Yep.
I think, but it's about how do we make it easier and more straightforward for people
Yeah.
to get, especially if they have good intentions. Not
For
everyone
sure.
wants to stay or
Mm.
overstay, right?
Mm.
So if you have the good intention, then it shouldn't be a blocker, especially for your situation, right? It's already a big thing that you were invited,
Bruh, I'm the only Pinoy. When I got to the whole thing, 97% of the people were speaking Arabic.
right?
Yeah.
To get there, you had to hustle already to
Yep.
even be recognized
Yep.
and to be invited for that opportunity.
Yep.
So the next step is, hey, just give this guy a visa, man.
Correct. No, and eventually there was a way pala. But I didn't feel bad for myself. So obviously I felt very privileged and very honored to do that. Pero every time the moment I was trying to get my boarding pass and trying to go to immigration, and it's the same archetype of people I was riding the plane with.
Mm,
I'm always especially in the immigration line. When you go to immigration, a bunch of the Filipinos are OFWs. And every single time, I feel like, man, what did they have to go through just to get
yeah,
their visa? Diba?
yeah,
Like, it's unfair. It shouldn't be like this. And it shouldn't be accepted that they're gonna be treated like this. Shit. And it's not just them, eh. The visa people on immigration. Swertihan. If you get a motherfucker that's nice, okay,
yeah.
go. And then you'll see them. The ones that are really that's make or break when they're getting to immigration. They have all these freaking envelopes.
Exactly.
Like, man, this I already know that this matters to them so much because a frequent traveler would show visa, passport, boarding pass, whatever the hell that is. Tapos.
That's it, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes I think they really intentionally make it harder for people because I remember this one time I was asked, "Oh, so why are you flying out?" Right? So and then I said, and I just tried. I said, I work there, OFW, because I lined up in the OFW line because it was shorter.
Mm.
So I lined up there. And then the person said, doesn't look like it, or parang di naman. What do you mean? Okay. So I don't know. So sometimes they ask for other details like added paperwork that aren't really necessary, but
Yeah.
maybe to instill some sense of, I don't know, power or fear. Don't really
No
know.
idea. It feels I feel bad. I mean, they're also doing their job, pero we make it super harder for our kababayans to get it done. Okay, wait. I'm gonna go finish your story because we're now deep into the visa story because that's
Yes.
your startup technically. So after Flixbus, two things I want to know. Because this is so amazing and how you were able to bounce back. Because after Flixbus, you did Wingcopter, for almost 2 years. Delivery Hero for a year and 7 months. Did Uber, a full circle moment and whatnot, per se. But two things I want to know. What after that visa brouhaha? Walk me through the next steps of your career. Just doing a quick brush through here
Yeah.
until you felt the itch. Now this is it. Na I want to solve this visa problem.
Hmm. Yeah. So a lot of things happened there. Also, the first years, I again had to have a job for the visa.
Mm.
But ever since, there were moments that guided me to go in this direction. So, for example, I was with Delivery Hero at the time.
Mm.
I went to Singapore to visit the Food Panda office,
Okay.
and I was invited to a dinner by one of the startup mentors that I met previously for
Okay.
Wing.
Okay.
And when I got there, I didn't know what to expect, but it was the startup community there in Singapore.
Mm.
And it was a very interesting night to say the least, because that again opened up the possibility that, wow, these people, they don't talk about office stuff. They don't talk about office politics. They
Nope.
talk about what they want to build, what they're up to, the mission that they're aiming for. And so it's a different energy. And at the time, I was part of Delivery Hero, but then when I stayed there until I think mga 3 a.m. and one of the guys there, I saw that you also interviewed him in one of your previous podcasts. So see Jeremy.
Julian?
No. Jeremy, one of your counterpart in Singapore, he was there.
Okay, Jeremy. Okay, got it.
Yes,
Yeah. See, Brave Podcast. There you go.
yes. And I didn't know, who he was. I wasn't in that circle. But that was again the story that someday when I am back in this community, I will have my own company also, or I'll have my own startup. And then I did a lot of work in the company. There's always that, is there somebody in this circle whose life I admire or I want to be like? And if the answer is no, then maybe I shouldn't be there. It's because I was doing a lot of inner work. At the time, I was going to conferences, to seminars. And then December of 2023, I went to the seminar, and then I told myself that next year, 2024, I'll bet on myself. Whatever it is. I didn't know what it was. But I signed up to a business seminar in the US. And it's like, what? I don't even have a business. And then I signed up for it. But then what I didn't know was that I was already, planning it, or it was already the path that was going to lead me there. And then it wasn't at the time, I also already had questions about, do I still want this?
No, the normal, that every entrepreneur goes through this. I have not met any entrepreneur that just had so much conviction at game na agad. So there's always that zero. Earl Valencia said it. It's actually the -1 to 0 moment. It's that dilemma right before you make the jump.
Yeah.
And the ones that do, again, we'll find out what the startup life is. Easy. But again, they already made such a move because they took a jump. A lot of people don't. What made you take the jump?
I joined this incubator, so Antler.
So you went through Antler.
I went through Antler. Yes, and then it just felt right at the time. Also, there were a lot of push and pull. I had this, again, internal conflict of what I wanted to do in life. And so I reminded myself, hey, you said that you will take a bet on yourself. Then you better do it. Don't just delay it, because there's always that pull again of comfort, of the familiar, which is being corporate, right? And the first questions to me when I was in the selection process was, why do you want to do this to yourself?
That's a question I will ask everyone now moving forward. Why do you want to fuck yourself up? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
What did you answer?
I don't exactly remember what I answered, but then I felt that I was meant for something.
Yeah.
Or outside of corporate, which is not bad there. But then I just know that, and it's also faith. I think a lot of it is faith. That if I had this idea, or if I have this desire or will to go after something, then maybe I am capable of it.
Yeah.
And so I just have to build that conviction also. That's why it took some time for me to take the leap.
I love it. So for those people who don't know the Antler program, and because again, Antler exists here in Southeast Asia. Did you do Antler in Germany? In Berlin?
Yes.
Okay, so for those people who don't know what Antler is, kindly explore, because this is also a very interesting path to be a founder, right? And can you describe what that experience is, and technically how did that lead to Get Your Visa?
Right. So Antler is an 11-week, 12-week program. So it's an incubator wherein they have this cohort of founders that want to build something. And the idea is to match you with a potential co-founder. So in the beginning, it was like a co-founder dating scenario, especially for
okay.
the first 2 weeks. So you have to meet everyone, and they call it like that. So I'm
Okay.
just making it up. And the goal is to find a person that has the complementary skill sets that you have. They go through, how it is to incorporate here, the basics or the foundations of
Yeah.
what you have.
Yep.
And that was a great time for me because that was my first real experience into working with this community of people who want to get something apart from, being in a startup.
Mm.
So it was like a mini MBA. I had a great time.
Yep.
I started with an idea that's very different from Get Your Visa. I
Mhm.
started with the idea of what about we get a castle or a chateau somewhere and then we do fractional ownership.
Oh.
And so when I joined Antler, I was so sure that I was gonna do it. And halfway through the program, I realized but that's a happy problem to solve. And then, it's not really solving a real pain point.
Right.
And then it just so
And you're
happened
gonna
that,
run out of castles eventually too.
yeah, it was a happy problem that I wanted, someday. And then I had to apply for my US visa because I signed up for this business seminar, right? So I
Yan
had
na naman, the US visa. Mm.
keeps on popping up, eh.
Mm.
And then my parents also had to apply for a Schengen visa because they wanted to visit me.
Okay.
And for them, it was a challenging process again because they had to submit other documents that
My
were not
God.
part of the original list.
Yeah.
So when I just had that challenge again, I thought, why is nobody fixing this? Why is this still a pain?
Mm.
And I started talking about it to different internationals or different nationalities in the cohort.
Yep.
And they tell me the same thing, that whenever I apply for a visa, I feel that I am treated differently like that, or that I had to do this. So it's a stressful, painful process.
Yeah.
And that's how it came up. Again, it is a real problem personally that I wanted to solve for myself, but also because it's everywhere.
Mhm.
I thought that, hey, this needs attention.
That's amazing. Last question before we take our last break. You mentioned that the Antler program is not okay. You have an idea, go get it. Because what I love about it is they're really forcing you to tackle these problems as a team. Because startups, good. I mean, I've seen solo founders do it, but that's what, few and far between, 1 in a million type of thing, right? And being a solo founder myself before, I don't want to do that again, right? Nakachamba. I got chamba that my first startup failed as a solo founder. My second startup got acquired. So, yay. But again, I always say it's chamba, right? But now I have co-founders, and my God, the level of stuff I had to go through with Podcast Network Asia is just, whew, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And I couldn't get there if I didn't have co-founders. So how did you pick your co-founders to tackle this problem in Get Your Visa that you're solving, that you're obviously super duper gung-ho about because it's personal to you?
Yeah. So it was the idea of that program is to find a co-founder.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, from the cohort, I didn't find one. And so I had to look for potential co-founders outside of the cohort. But then a lot of us also didn't find one anyway, but we were strongly encouraged. And so one of the eligibility criteria of whether you get funding or not from Antler is if you find a co-founder. So but I didn't also want to force it. It is a big decision to build something with someone. And so I feel like, no, I just don't want to do it just for the sake of it. I will do it. And then eventually I will attract the right team, the right person.
Okay, sounds good. Now let's take our last break, and when we come back, we will now talk about, obviously, Get Your Visa, how they're solving this amazing problem, and how they will get it. Because if there's one thing we know about this girl now, is that whatever she thinks she will eventually get it. But let's talk about that more after the break.
Hey hustlers, before we resume the episode, let me tell you a very quick secret. Do you guys ever wonder how we're able to consistently release episode after episode here in Hustleshare without missing a date over the past 3 years? Well, it's not just pure hustle, because I'm also running my podcast along with me running my startup full time. Now, for some of you who have listened to this podcast, you guys very well know that I created a startup that is designed to help the best podcasters in Southeast Asia to realize their full potential, which is called Podcast Network Asia. And over the past couple of years, we've achieved quite a lot in P&A, helping hundreds of podcasters create world-class episodes consistently. However, what we realize is that we are not really solving the real problem of all podcasters in the world if we're not going to productize the thing that we're very good at, which is helping podcasters solve the two main pain points of a podcaster, which is number one, nobody really likes to edit their own show. Especially if you're listening to your own voice. Just like me, I cringe a lot. Having to listen to my voice for 3 to 4 hours just to release a 1-hour episode. It's no fun. And then the other thing is that most podcasters, just like me, are absolutely clueless on how to properly grow their show, which is something that we have perfected in Podcast Network Asia. So we've decided to put this all in one product that helps any podcaster in the world create world-class shows that people will love and will continuously grow. And that's why we created Podmachine. Podmachine is the most affordable podcast subscription service that helps you with your podcasting needs. We've got everything from audio production, crafting designs, and marketing and growth support. So as a podcaster, you can now just focus on the thing that matters the most, creating great content for your listeners. So, if you are an existing podcaster or someone that actually wants to create their podcast now, no need to worry. You got a founder's discount by listening here on Hustleshare. So sign up now at podmachine.com. And aside from the free trial that you're going to get as a new user, I'm throwing in another one free edit as soon as you sign up for just as low as $49.99 USD a month to start creating a consistent and world-class podcast. Again, that's podmachine.com and use the code Hustleshare to get your founder discount. So if you have friends that are podcasters and if you want to have a podcast just like this, y'all know what to do. So just go and talk to you guys in Podmachine.
And we're back from the break. We are still with Carlyn Gabon, then told us the amazing journey. And now we're talking about Get Your Visa as a whole. So again, before the break, we talked about how she started out, right? How she was able to then figure out what she wants to do, took a chance, pivoted midway the Antler program. But I want to understand your 0 to 1 process because again, even if you feel like you've figured it out, startup life is brutality. So I want to understand what were the first few struggles you had to go through and how did you overcome them?
Yes. So one is finding the right co-founder. Because as I mentioned earlier, that was one of the factors that investors are looking for. And at the time, coming from Grab, the Uber mindset, that I think, and it's not right? But at the time, I thought that I need to get funding so that it's validated. My idea is a sound idea,
Yep.
right? Because that was the mindset that you have to raise funds. You have to, you announce that on LinkedIn. And so even if I knew that, hey, that's not the success metric that we're aiming for, I still, at the time, because I was new to it, that no, I need to do this. And so even if, and I knew that we were nearing the investment, the IC round, investment committee round. So I had to really rush it. As I mentioned, I pivot halfway through the program. So I had to come up with my website, had to find a way, had to figure it out myself. And then just presented what I had.
Yep.
And so it was also, I knew coming in that it was going to be a challenging process. But when you're actually living through it every single day, it's a different kind of, what is this? nothing could have prepared me for this. Yeah,
That's
but
why the guy asked you, are you willing to go? Why do you want to put yourself through this?
yeah. Yeah, now I get it. Why? It's an important question to ask everyone.
Yes. Oh my God. But also a different sense of satisfaction. And if you felt like you're a grown up, there's a founder level grown up that you're gonna have to unlock amongst yourselves, because now it's not just you. It's the people that look up to you, the people if you have employees. Again, there's always another level that you feel like you have to unlock, and it never gets old. What were those what's your welcome to founderhood moment that you remember distinctly, that nothing could have prepared you for it?
Hmm. When when I launched the very MVP, the very initial product, the prototype,
Okay.
and of course it's hard to get users,
Yes.
right? Because also I'm building it in Germany.
Yep.
So I think it wasn't clear what my go-to market was in the beginning because
Yep.
I was doing it for Filipinos.
Mm.
But then because my marketing and then my pitch was also I was building it in Germany. I'm building it here in Germany, right? So I
Yep.
had to be very clear who it is for, what I'm doing exactly.
Mhm.
And then the question is, are you a travel agency or are you a visa agency? Or what's the tech layer to
Mm.
it? Right? Like what's AI? Because I said that, okay, it's powered by AI and it is and it will be.
Mhm.
But especially, first few weeks in, you don't have everything. Without having the vision, the grand vision of how I want the product to be or the solution to be,
Yeah.
and then what is the immediate product that I have, or what can I do, or what's
Right.
the benefit that I can already give out to my potential users.
Mhm.
So those early days, the figuring it out, and I think it's the commitment and the decision that hey, I will do this. And I think because there will always be other opportunities. I remember that when I started in my mind progressing already. So I got contacted by Future Travel Summit that
Nice.
you're one of the startups that we want to be part of the pitch competition. And then we
Mm.
were handpicked as part of that. That was about the same time that I got also other offers from a competitor of the company that I was working for before. And that was the role that I said I had to get this first before I can say to myself that I'm ready for entrepreneurship.
Now you're sharing. You have these entrepreneurship and that.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. And
Okay.
then that means, in a way, certainty, though, of course,
Yeah.
nothing is certain,
Yeah.
right? Especially in the situation right now.
Mm.
Um, and the overall ecosystem of tech, there's nothing that's guaranteed.
Nope.
But then I know what I'm going to get at the end of the month. Right?
Right.
I have that title. I have that. I have a team,
You have
and
sure ball salary.
for
The most.
what? Right? Not
What
and
is
we
a
don't. I
salary
don't
as a founder? Oh, there you go. Good luck. Mm.
zero, right? Um, you even
Ah,
have to use your own money.
abono is life. There you go. Mm.
Exactly.
So again, but that's why I have so much respect for founders. I mean, being a founder myself, 4 times over, when people they take that plunge, I already have respect for you, because you just you there's a high probability that you just messed your life up. But there is triumph, and there's validation at the end of the rainbow, and that's what I want to ask. Right? Despite I always say it in the podcast, I'd say out of 10 days, probably 9 are shit, but there's one day that kind of just erases all the torture and brutality that comes with it. What was your first setup moment where like, finally this shit is working? What was that like?
Yes. So when I was invited, I mentioned to
Mhm.
this pitch competition because they selected us from 280, close to 300
Mhm.
startups from all over the world.
Mhm.
And I was a newbie in the space, and I was invited already there. And the sarap moment for me was because my mom was there,
Ah.
see me on stage. And so that's one of the things that I why I have this strong urgency to do things.
Yeah.
It's because I want them also to, see that okay, she can take care of herself. She's doing well. I want them to see the fruits of their labor.
Yeah. I think they already see that.
Mm.
Because as someone, as founders as well, I'm like this too, and I tell this to a lot of founders that went through Hustleshare, and that's why they always say, hey, you know what, your podcast is like therapy, because we're so much we're so obsessed over what's in front of us and what's next that sometimes you forget how far we've come. Right now, how far? Oh my God, I just can't believe I just did that. Apparently, and
Yeah.
it's fleeting, so you don't really realize you're already there until you realize, like, let me just look back. Oh my God, I just did that, and the current version of you is just is a completely version of you that not just your family is going to be proud of, but in the hindsight being 2020, regardless of what result this might be, a win, a loss, whatever, it's something that you'll be proud of. The product of being a founder just transform you in such a profound way that it will, again, regardless of the torture you go through, I'm pretty sure it will make you a better person. I'm pretty sure your family is proud of you. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. When this podcast comes out, tingnan mo, they're gonna share that all over, and they're gonna say that they're proud of you.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they are, and I know that every day. That's why I keep on going because
Yeah.
that's that safety net. If there's any form of safety net, it's I know that I have my family. So
Same. My mom and my wife. There you go.
yes,
And my
yeah, that's
cats. There you go. My cats will not judge me. They'll look at me when they're hungry, but they will not judge me. There you go.
yeah. But to your point earlier, right? It's entrepreneurship is the biggest personal development program that you can get yourself into. It's like personal development on steroids because you just have to eliminate things that are not working for you. And so the person that I was a year ago, I can say is different. Even my choices, my lifestyle.
Yeah.
It had to change. And
Correct.
it comes with trade-offs. That's why it is,
Yes. No, and
very
it's
well.
it's the one of the most selfless things that you can do, because at the end of the day, there's no guarantee. A lot of
No.
it, what people don't understand as founders, that, oh my God, the TechCrunch stuff that you see is a facade. It's a mirage of what you technically see, but underneath it's all the bullshit that you have to go through. And if you really don't have conviction over this path, it's such an easy thing to get out of, because it's not built for everyone. And if you are still in the founder, or you're at the precipice, again, ask yourself, are you willing to go through this? But if you go through it, I swear to God, you will change, because Carlyn is right. The trajectory of the founder is directly proportional to your ability as a, I mean, the sorry, let me scratch that. The trajectory of the business or the startup is directly proportional to their ability as a founder to evolve and unlearn and be a phoenix, die and rise from the ashes again multiple times over. And the more times you go through that, you just become a founder. And even the best of us, the Brian Cruz of the world and whatnot, there's no guarantees. Even if you get a win, I got an exit. I tried again. I thought I was gonna do it. No, I'm freaking struggling.
It's not going to get easier.
No, there are things that you carry with you, but the level of uncertainty, and a lot of this also, I'll attribute it to two things. And I talked about it in the last episode before this. Earl Valencia said it. He's a former VC turned founder, he's still a story in writing. But startup life, there's so many factors you cannot control. And the two factors that are really out of your control is timing and luck.
Yeah.
Because all the stars need to align in order to get that grand old exit. So that's why if you're a startup founder, an exit, yes, it would be great if that's the end goal, but that's also only valid if you have investors or a shit ton of investors in you. There's nothing wrong by being a very profitable business. And that's what business startups are aiming for anyway, to become a sustainable, fast growing business. So if just because you don't have an exit, but if you have a highly profitable business, you're actually better off, because startups are designed to burn through all that cash and crash and burn, go big or go home. But if you just want to make this long term and really solve a problem long term, there's nothing wrong with becoming a sustainable, traditional, sustainable business. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I think that's a decision that you have to make peace with yourself.
Correct.
Because we get into the startup game with that $1 billion business in mind, right? We want to grow fast, scale fast, growth at all costs, but which is not the game anymore because VCs, I think, are more and more looking for profitability,
Correct.
right? So it's a different game compared to, the earlier days
Yeah.
where there were just a lot of capital. And it's also about what are you aiming for? Is it the exit or do you want to make an impact in
Yep.
the business that you are building, right?
Yep. Mhm.
So
And
you have to be clear with what you want.
correct. And it's not zero sum. You can do both, but don't FOMO or don't disqualify yourself. No, because this guy has an exit. I ain't worth shit. No, it's not. At the end of the day, if you have clarity over what you want to solve, why you're doing it, the funding and everything else in between just a means to an end. And that end, you have to be very, very particular over what that is, because that's your why. Why the hell are you doing this, and why are you torturing yourself to get through this? Now, okay, last few questions before I let you go. So you've been through this, and you're almost a year now, doing Get Your Visa. What has changed since then, and how are you guys growing?
I started with the B2C in mind. So I want to help individuals
Mhm.
get their visas fast. So starting with tourist and business, and I'm still doing that.
Mhm.
However, recently I made a pivot or a change in the sense that how can I do it faster in the sense that if I will have to do it individually, which is I'm doing, yes, high volume, but the speed to get to the market is tougher compared to if I partner with distribution partners
Makes sense.
and this means providing the travel agencies who are already at the front line. They're frontliners when it
Right.
comes to processing visa applications. They have their brick and mortar stores. They have their names already established, especially the big ones. What if I enable them to do it faster and better? And so I now have a software that will automate some of the most repetitive manual tasks and then eventually add in new benefits and potentially like e-visas, add the latest features, but then they will be my initial partners or they are my partners to bring this to market. And what I realized also is this is, even if they've been doing it for years, it is still a cumbersome process for them, right? Because they also still do it manually.
Yeah.
And that's what they have grown accustomed to. And so adding this tech layer, because before I even came up with this software, the features of it, the benefits of it, it came from an agency because I've been asking about, hey, what are your current problems? So I did my market research and then this is the product. Yeah, so that is the shift of I don't have to do it alone.
Nice.
So they're not my competitors.
Yeah.
Because initially, who are your main competitors, right? We have to do that as part of the pitch. Initially, I thought it's the travel agencies, it's the VFS, the visa application centers. But how about if I shift that mindset into more of an abundance that, hey, it's not a zero sum game. How about we help each other out? And this is the tech layer that you can use to help your customers, and you will still be the one serving them.
Yeah.
Right? There's already that trust established between the agency and then the end customer. And I will just be on I will just help enable that.
That's exactly what Grab did, and you're doing what Grab does, technically, right? Connecting them with the driver and the user. You're the key cog to make that work, because again, whew, not easy. I don't want to go through that again. If I'm traveling, I will use Get Your Visa na. Okay? To make sure, because especially on places where you have to get pre-approved, Filipinos like to go to Japan, Korea, freaking UK. These are the go-tos that people go to, especially the US. My God.
Yes, and the thing there is it's fragmented. Like if
Yeah.
you go apply for a US visa, you mentioned earlier, in Riyadh, Japan, it's different like processes. You don't know where to start.
Yep.
So the
By the way,
plan
I
is
just got lucky when I said earlier I got lucky. I got a 10-year in the
US.
US. So yeah, I'm not sure if they're gonna approve me, but I've gone a couple times. So plenty of times, at least 2 to 3 times a year actually. So yeah, suki na ako US. Please get me back. But again, before we let you go, Carlene, I wanna get your advice because I love the journey that you're in, and it's just a matter of time, right? You're what Paulo Campos of Kaya Founders labels you guys as second generation startup founders, that you've been through a startup, scaled with a startup, became a key cog in the team, and decided to do it on their own. That's one of the most bankable archetypes that we have here. But for those people who are in the precipice, who probably are starting to now think like, hey, you're like you probably 5 6 years ago that I want to put up my own startup at one point, but I'm not yet ready. What would be your advice if they're in a startup or they're considering to go to a startup and they currently have work to eventually take the plunge and take the leap?
So first, if you're already in a startup or a scale up, learn everything that you can. It's an opportunity for you actually to test things in a safe space.
Yes, may sweldo.
And it's fun that you don't have to worry about it. You just
Correct.
have to make it work. You just have to build the skills, the right mindset, the acquire the right tools for you to how do you launch this? What's the right way to build this?
Yeah.
Right. And actually that right, there's no right way. You just have to test it out. You just have to figure out what is right for you at that specific time and then learn to pivot.
Yeah.
And then second, and I think the most important is you have to be in the right state and the right mindset to take the plunge because it will keep on testing you. It's
Yeah.
like every day it's asking you, do you still want to do this? You said you want this, right? Then you better prove that you will figure it out. And maybe I'm just because I'm new to this and I'm learning a lot
Mm.
in terms of how I deal with things.
Mm.
But make sure also that you're equipped with the right tools to reframe what is
Yeah.
happening. And what is useful for me is the shift in my perspective that whenever something happens to me, it's not happening to me, but it's happening for me.
There you go.
So so for example, the pandemic story earlier, it was it was a terrible experience at the time. Like I don't want anyone to go through that because it was stressful.
Yeah.
But now that I've learned from it, I have shifted it that wait, I it happened because it just had to happen so that I can do this now.
Mhm.
So that I'm better equipped to handle things.
Mhm.
And so that reframing, psychology is a big factor and I'm
Yeah.
learning every day.
I love it. Now, last question before I let you go. And you before you plug and give the gift to our users. Man, it's so hard. I'm a fan now. I'm a fan. Not of just your Get Your Visa. I'm a fan of yours because again, it's hard to bet on yourself after every single thing that you went through. But what's your MO? How do you stay positive? How do you keep going when there are times where life seems like, you know what, it's just this is it, roll it in, go back to the parents, it's okay, you're gonna be just fine. But every single time, Dora the Explorer wins um with the backpack. How do you rally yourself on dark days, and what would be your advice for people going through that too?
So like last night,
I
I
like
was
last night. Okay. How recent was this last
recent.
night?
How
Okay.
recent is last night?
Okay.
Um, so I think it's and again I'm still learning how to best handle this,
Mm.
but it's important that I surround myself with the right people.
Mm.
And that means not they don't have to be physically around me,
Yeah.
but who you allow to influence you, the people you listen to, it's very important.
Yeah.
Because I'm part of this coaching program that wherein everyone's further along. They have been doing it for a long time, and I'm the newbie. But then, even if they've been doing it for a long time already, they tell me that no, I'm still going through that. So it kind of alleviates that. Whew, it's a normal process that I'm going through. And sometimes you just have to hear that, hey, it's okay that you're still worried. It means you care. You're still anxious. We still do that. We still feel that. So I think because sometimes it feels weird that is it supposed to be this way? If it's so hard, then maybe it's wrong, or maybe I have to pivot again. But no, you just have to stay the course and just just having the right guidance. And also, I ask myself, am I building this for the future Carlyn? And is this leading me closer to the life that I want? And I think if the answer is yes, then okay, do it another day, you keep at it. And I think that vision earlier that I told you about, that I don't know how to get there, but I still have that. So it kind of, I don't just push for it, but I allow it to pull me also.
That is amazing. What a solid episode. I'm glad we were able to finally get you here. But again, Carlyn, this wouldn't end without you giving it back to the people who need access to this. So if they want to check out getyourvisa.com, if you want to take advantage of this amazing startup that you have, where do they go and how do they do that?
So our website is getyourvisa.app, and I have a small gift for all your listeners. So if they message me on Instagram, Hustleshare or guide, I will immediately send them automatically a free guide. So it's a 16, 17 pager guide on how to get your tourist visa. And it guides you from how to write a cover letter. What are the requirements? What do you have to prepare for when you go to an interview? And the goal of this is, I usually give this to my clients, people who have already, said that they want my services, and then I will give this to them as a guide how to get it. But I am also coming from the place wherein even if we don't work together, I hope we do, but even if we don't encounter each other, in the future, at least you have this. So you can keep it. It's for you. Hopefully it helps you. So just DM Hustleshare or guide, just Hustleshare.
Yeah.
Instantly it will be sent to your inbox.
Where do they message you? They might message me, Hustleshare. Not me, don't message me. Yeah.
Our Instagram at getyourvisa.app. And if you are an agency that wants to automate, just message us as well, agency.
There you go. Again, not me. Message at getyourvisa.app on IG. All right. If you message me, Hustleshare, like, I'll be like, huh? What are you talking about? All right. All right.
Have any trigger, yes.
Again, Carlyn, thank you very much. But before I let you go, follow us on whatever podcast app you're listening to, whether Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And if you did say some jargon and any links that I'm going to told you, it's going to be in the show notes on hustleshare.com. If you also want to support Hustleshare and doing content like this, please subscribe at premium.hustleshare.com. Again, Carlyn, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was a great experience.
Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.